Welcome to Maddie's Monthly Foster Connection, a monthly webcast where we learn about topics of interest to those of us who are starting and expanding foster programs. Our guest today is Marnie Russ. Marnie developed a kitten college at Animal Welfare League of Arlington in Arlington, Virginia. The first kitten nursery of its kind, Arlington went from saving 92 kittens a year in 2016 to 1,547 kittens in 2022, all while maintaining a no-kill live release rate. Marnie's been fostering neonatal kittens for over 2 decades, specializing in critical care neonates and high-risk nursing and expectant queens. Marnie is a nationally recognized expert on caring for at-risk kittens. She is the co-founder of the National Kitten Coalition and speaks nationally on the subject of at-risk neonatal kittens. Her advice and expertise is sought from shelters and rescues across the country. In 2023, Marnie assisted UC Davis and the University of Wisconsin to update their neonatal kitten guidelines for mass distribution. Marnie's a seasoned animal welfare advocate who's worked previously with the ASPCA, traveling across the country, working with shelters, as well as state and local governments to advance animal welfare policy. She sits on multiple boards for spay-neuter organizations throughout the country, including Fox Hollow Animal Project in Montana and Caring Hands Animal Support and Education International Advocacy. She annually travels to third world countries, assisting in international spay-neuter projects to help impact the lives of the street animals in underserved areas. So today, Marnie's going to be talking to us about the Kitten College program. Welcome, Marnie.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm super excited to be here. If you haven't heard about Kitten College, I hope that you learn a lot today and see how just little things that you do can impact a program greatly. Let me share my screen and we can get the presentation started. So as Kelly said, my name is Marnie Russ. I'm the National Kitten College Program Administrator at the Animal Welfare League of Arlington. The Animal Welfare League of Arlington is based in Arlington, Virginia. We are literally just steps from the Pentagon. We had a total intake of 2023 of just under 3,000. In 2022, we had just over 3,000. So we vary around that range. The majority of the animals that come into our shelter are transfers. We are a highly educated, very wealthy, transient community. We see a lot of people coming and going with the administrations. So we're very fortunate that we're able to capitalize on those demographics. Even with these numbers, we do have a 98% live release rate at our shelter. One thing that we don't talk about, because we know that these numbers may change, we have a 94 to 95% live release rate for neonates, which is essentially unheard of. We've been very fortunate in mostly getting kittens out of the shelter, and that's how we're able to do that. But we don't talk about that number because we don't specify what types of animals can come in, what types of kittens. We will take sick kittens. We will pull from areas that have previously had infectious disease outbreaks. So we know that there'll be a time where that number will go down, and we don't want to be judged by it. But we have always had between a 93 and 95% live release rate for neonates. So we know that what we're doing is working. The program started because, as Kelly mentioned, I'm also co-founder of the National Kitten Coalition, and we got a grant in 2016 to visit the 5 major shelters that were doing nurseries in the country. Our idea was to create a best practices manual so that we could teach people that want to address kittens in a large scale lessons learned without having to go through them. We spent 2 days at all of these organizations, and they were wonderful. We spoke to everybody from the very top CEO all the way down to the volunteers that work once a week and just help clean. We really did a lot of work. We put this all together, but while I was sitting in these meetings, it became really apparent to me that the majority of kittens are not going to end up in Manhattan. So they're not going to be going to the ASPCA in New York, even though that facility is phenomenal and does great work. How do we alter this so it fits into a small to mid-sized municipal shelter or rescue? So I went over to the AWLA. I live across the street. I was an active foster for them for years, and I talked to them about putting something together. And they were absolutely wonderful. They said they would give me 3 months to do the first summer and see what we could do. This picture that you see here was an empty storage closet where dog crates were stored. And we worked with a donor, a private donor that gave us $25,000 to get this little nursery up off of the ground. With that money, we made that little storage closet into this. And I will tell you, we only used 10,000 of that $25,000 grant. It was actually much less expensive than we thought it would be. Our biggest investment was obviously the bank of kennels. We got 3 incubators, 2 small and 1 large, and we got an oxygen concentrator. Those were our biggest investments. One thing to notice in this picture is the green paint. It was an interesting thing because we had a foster that worked with Sherwin-Williams, and he was telling me that they had a antimicrobial clinical grade paint. So we just put it in there. At the time, we didn't have a ton of color choices, so we went with this lovely pale green. But it is a clinical grade paint. It's a little more expensive, but if you decide to use it, Sherwin-Williams will give you 40% off for a nonprofit. It's anecdotal. We didn't ever run this program without it, but our live release rate sort of speaks for itself. It's maintaining positive sterilization and using extra precautions like this, I think really helped us get to where we were. Our main idea for doing this is going from taking a little program and building it without taking up more time, more money, and more staff, which we know are all valuable resources at a shelter. We're so stressed as it is and stretched that if we were going to make a significant difference, we needed to address these 3 options to figure out how do we grow the program without impacting it and harming the shelter. So in February of 2017, we launched the region's first kitten nursery. When I say region, I mean the DMV, which is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We really wanted to be the shelter that focused on this need. This is country music star Phil Vassar. He is a friend of the program and came and kicked off our nursery. And he's allergic to cats. That's why they are in a blanket. But as we said earlier, prior to developing this program, we did about 92 kittens a year. Arlington has historically done high scale TNR. We don't have a lot of open areas. We don't get a lot of kittens that come in organically that are strays. So we were meeting the needs of our community, but I knew from working with fosters around us that they were euthanizing further out at 9:30 every night. And I knew that we could be doing more. And I'll shout out to AWLA for being like, let's see what we can do to help beyond our county borders. So in 2017, we started the program in July of 2017. That year, we did almost 400 kittens. So for 4 months for a program, that was a big, big difference. We did end up closing the nursery from November to March, as we had promised, but that's the only time since then that the nursery has been closed, because since then we have built up almost to 1,600 kittens a year. So what those numbers tell us is that there was a need going on in our community that just wasn't being addressed. So we were really happy to work on that with our community and help save these kittens from outside of our border walls. So here is a little video that I'm sure that this audience will be very receptive to. It is put together by our foster program that talks about the program, what it is and why we do it. So that just talks a lot about why we all do what we do. And I just love that video. So I'm always happy to share it. If you decide that you want to use something like that, everything that you see here today, everything that we talk about, you can reach out to me and I can give it to you if it helps you in some way in your organization. We obviously know that everybody has very different demographics, but there's no reason to recreate the wheel on things that are already done. And that's sort of the concept that Kitten College has functioned under from the very beginning. So how are we different? Arlington's not that different. All of us are here because we save kittens and we save animals. So we really aren't that different than any other organization. We just tried little things that had a big impact. And I would love, love, love to say that we first saw how, the impacts would go and what it would look like and how great it would be, but we had no idea. We did things out of utility that in turn had bigger outcomes than we thought. So we have made a practice now of sharing that with other folks to see if that's something that can help you. If it is, you're free to access any of our resources. We will talk later about what options we have available to you. But we are very excited to share and also learn from other people about what they're doing. So the Kitten College concept itself is our biggest difference. The program has sort of been built to sustain itself. And we offer a lot of foster flexibility that historically in programs, at least in our area, weren't always available. We really try and make a place for everyone who wants to be involved in this. So when I say the Kitten College concept, what that means is all of our fosters are categorized into class. So our fosters are freshmen, sophomore, junior, and senior. So you come to the shelter and I can't do bottle babies. That's too scary. I like certain things. We'll find out what's best for you and assign you to that class. Our seniors take the smallest, itty bittiest bottle babies. They take kittens with special needs. They take medical cases. They have the ability to notice things with a very refined eye. They can see they've done it a long time. They can see if a kitten is suffering. They can see if a kitten is going in one direction and how to autocorrect. So there are very, very most educated fosters for neonates. Those are our seniors. Our juniors also do bottle babies. So they will take kittens that are just starting to wean or that are still on the bottle. They'll have mild medical conditions that they'll be able to deal with. They also have a very keen eye to what's going on with kittens' health and can act on it quickly. The juniors and seniors are also very in line with the shelter. They know what our protocols are. They work very closely with us on a day-to-day basis. Our sophomores will take kittens that are eating independently. They can be smaller. They may have diarrhea or a URI and need that, once a day oral med. We also send kittens that need to be socialized to these fosters, the sophomores. And then our freshmen will take kittens that are healthy, they're eating independently. Maybe they just are a little backed up on our surgery schedule, so it's going to be a week or so before we can get them in. They'll go to we like to send them to very active households with young children and get them socialized and get them ready to go. We will also send mild socialization to our freshman fosters. When we started the program, you saw that we did invest in a bank of kennels. We weren't sure whether or not we would have kittens in the shelter 24/7. We had it set up so that we could go either way. We learned very quickly that the safest place for these kittens is not in the shelter. So we took very great care in developing fosters that are special needs, that are very capable. In some cases, we send incubators home with them. But our organization is now basically all foster based, which is another reason probably for our high neonate live release rate. We put a lot of support into our fosters. As you can see here, these fosters, we are our ride or die fosters. We call them our professors at the Kitten College. I was teaching in Texas a year and a half ago, and they had the idea of calling them professors. So this year's jackets say professors, but we definitely recognize them. We even have fosters, as you can see, that tattoo the program to their arm because they really love it and they're behind it. And it's a great way to get them involved. We do also have fosters that are social media influencers. This is something that is unique because these are in theory still are cats. So we need to make sure that what is going out on social media is representative of the shelter. So we do have a social media policy that we have our fosters sign, and we make that available to anybody who is interested. We're happy to share that. But what we have found is that it's a very cohesive relationship because these social media influencers, they rely on us for content. And we rely on them because they're so wonderful at saving these kittens, getting our stories out, helping fundraise. The majority of them buy their own supplies because they get donations from their websites. So it's become a very great cohesive relationship. Our fosters in 2016, before we started this, we had 38 fosters at the shelter, and that covered our 92 kittens. They were all active fosters. Now we have over 300 fosters, and over 100 of those are bottle baby fosters. So the program really grew. And for us, that was the biggest thing, is trying to figure out, okay, so now we have these, how do we make it, number one, so we get foster retention, keep them happy, and continue to save as many kittens without overwhelming the shelter. So that was sort of our next big issue. So one of the things people always ask is, why is it so different? Why does it work for you guys? And one of the things that I wasn't anticipating when we first started this, we really decided to break it down into classes out of utility. If you have a bottle baby foster that comes in June and gets a 2-day-old kitten, and you say, come back in 2 months when that kitten is 2 weeks or 2 pounds, and we'll sterilize it, that is not using that resource to the best of our ability. We need bottle feeders available when bottle babies come in. We are so fortunate not to have to overload fosters with multiple litters, but what we want to do is get them in and out with the bottle feeders and onto the other foster. So that allowed us to have a foster that would come in and say, hey, I'm going to be here for 2 weeks, but then my family's going on summer vacation, so I can't take that kitten. If you can take him for 2 weeks, we're going to give it to you. It's great for the shelter because it gives us more fosters. It's less of a time commitment for the fosters. And what we found is that the socialization of these kittens is amazing. When they're going from foster to foster, having different experiences between that crucial 3 to 6 week mark, they become very adaptable. And when they're adaptable, they don't get stressed. And when they don't get stressed, they don't get sick. So we did have, when we first started this, fosters that just wanted to keep it. They wanted to keep those kittens with them as long as possible. And we were very, very careful about allowing fosters to determine their own track. And if that's something they wanted to do, we certainly would allow it. We would let them talk to them about the importance of the socialization and what this does. But I think right now we have all of our fosters now transfer out to other fosters. So they do this little conveyor belt, meaning if I have a foster and I want to give it to Kelly, then I know I'm more comfortable giving it to Kelly than just giving it back to the shelter. So it really has enabled us to take a lot more kittens, to get a lot more fosters. And the cherry on the top is how socialized these kittens have become and what that does to their immune system. So as we started taking all these kittens in, the CEO and I were at a conference, at one of the expos, I think it was Kansas City, and we were really worried because we were going from 360 to 1,000 kittens, and our fear was that this program was going to grow to the point where we save kittens just to have them sit in the shelter. And that was certainly something we did not want to do. So we were talking at dinner one night with a group from Massachusetts, and they always have kitten drought. So we talked about building a kind of a way station where, as our numbers started to get in, we could ship them up to Massachusetts. So soon after that conference, we sent our first 40 kittens up to them. And after the kittens got there, it's a 12-hour drive through New York City in a van. After the kittens got there, they called me and they said, Marnie, we need to talk to you about the kittens. And I was so stressed. I was like, did they projectile vomit all over everybody? I just wasn't sure what the problem was. And she was To the contrary, very excited. She said, every single one of your kittens came into our quarantine and was out in 24 hours. How did you do that? And I didn't know. This is sort of how the idea of giving them all of these events early on allow them to adapt better. And so then they asked if we would do our next one. And since they were not in quarantine, they started paying us $100 a kitten for each unvetted kitten. So they would have their FVRCP, but the rest of the vetting was on the onus of the shelter up north. So now all of a sudden during kitten season, we're making, $4,000 on kittens that we can invest back into our program. So it became a real revenue opportunity for us. And I drove the second batch up and we broke down on the Jersey Turnpike. And the kittens still, every single one of them made it straight through quarantine in 24 hours. And while I was there, they asked me to do a presentation on our program. And this is also kind of where the idea of sharing what we're doing as we learn it came to be. So essentially, since then, we have found even at these high numbers of 1,600, we don't have kittens that sit. So our transport opportunities, we haven't taken advantage of. We've shipped them, we've shared them with other shelters in our area that may need them, but we haven't really needed to use it. Shortly after our second transport, we heard from North Shore Animal League America. They had heard about our kittens and they do the Kitten Bowl on the Hallmark Channel. So they used our kittens for that because you could take these kittens and put them in a soundstage in New York City and they would still play and be active and not be scared. And that was wonderful for our fosters and a great way to start our program. They canceled that 2 years ago, which was a bit of a relief for us because it was a lot of work. But I think it really speaks to the fact that giving these kittens accessibility early on to different circumstances has an impact on the greater good of their health as they go into adulthood. So once we started seeing our numbers doing so well, we were like, okay, we can keep pulling these kittens and we can save them, but all we're going to be doing is saving kittens all the time. We need to address where they're coming from and how to help those communities. So we reached out to the 5 areas in which we pulled the most kittens and said, what if we helped you start your own satellite kitten college campus? And we will give you all of our resources. We will help train your fosters. We will help you in any way that we can. And in return, you have our word that when you are overwhelmed with kittens, we prioritize taking your kittens. That is a huge incentive for any community. Nobody likes kitten season as much dislike as these like rural shelters and rescues. So if they have a commitment from somebody, they're very motivated to try and help and work together to get the program under control. We looked at our 5 targeted areas, and these were the 5 that we started with. We launched this in I think it was November of 2019. So essentially 2020 would have been our first year as with satellite campuses. Of course, we all know that in March of 2020, the pandemic hit, so things were stagnant. But all of these are still very high functioning kitten colleges in our area. 2 that I'd like to pay attention to particularly is Middleburg Humane Foundation. They are in a very wealthy rural area about 45 miles outside of DC. While they have a lot of money and a beautiful facility, they have very little traffic and they don't get a lot of animals adopted. They do a lot of TNR in that area, so they do get a lot of kittens. Their fosters have become very adept with socialization because a lot of what comes in is from barn cats. And their program went from us pulling from them to now we don't pull from them at all. And they pull from outside of their community. So they were up, I think, 400% in their numbers just this year alone. So we know that it's really working. The other thing that's great about Middleburg is since their fosters are so good with socializing kittens, we are bottle babies. Obviously, with the 100 bottle baby fosters, it's something that we have a lot of strength in. Our vet sees it a lot. So sometimes if they have bottle babies and we have kittens that really need to be socialized, we will switch with them. Another one is Prince George's County. Prince George's County is outside of DC and they're a very rural community. At the time, there was ordinances against TNR. So they had a special lot of work ahead of them and they have been wonderful. We worked with them to set up a program. The county now allows TNRs, so trappers are in there. But last year was the first year in the history of the organization that the shelter did not euthanize kittens for space. So we know that what we're doing is working, and really what we're doing is working as a community. So as this continued to grow, we decided to take our show on the road and let other people know what it is that we're doing. How can we help? Kitten College has gotten more of kind of a national attention just as kind of a shtick. I hate to say that, but it's a program just like any program you guys are doing, but it's already categorized for you. It's a packet. Anybody who wants to become a Kitten College can be a Kitten College. Just reach out to me and let me know. Anybody who wants to run this program with a different name, we will give you all the information, how we categorize, what we do. We only ask that in return, if you find something that really works and is useful to you, you share it back with us so that we can share it with our entire community. At this point, I think we have 36 people that have 36 places around the country that have Kitten College actual satellite campuses. And then we also have many that run the program under a different name. One thing that we learned about was how the power of events really helps the shelter. When we were doing our presentations for the national ones, one of them said, the kitten nursery is our corporation's ATM. So if you need money, you talk about the nursery. And we find that people are so interested in what we're doing with the kittens. We initially did drag queen tiny kitten bingo, which for our community worked well. I know that in some communities that might not be the best, but for us, it was an Instagram event. It's sold out almost immediately. We do kitten yoga at our shelter. We have kitten naming games and raffles, your basic, your kitten showers. Since we have a wildlife center in the picture here, we have people that come in and see what we're doing. It's really important for the community to get to know what it is that you do. A big part of gaining fosters early on was me going to chamber lunches and talking about what AWLA was doing and asking businesses to incentivize their employees and let them bring those kittens to work and let them know it's a possibility if it's something they want to do. I also went to veterinary clinics with the local Zoetis rep, and she would do lunch and learns and I'd bring bottle babies. I would never leave with a bottle baby. It's a big part of how we built up our critical care kittens, because we have vets that will take them, vet techs that will take them. And it's all mostly about education. We also bring our kittens out into the community. Our 911 call centers are a high stress environment. We bring them there, we bring them to the food banks. Just to let people know what we're doing and to kind of give back. So we also do apprenticeship programs, and these are available to any of you that are interested. You can reach out to me. It's also available on our website. We do a full day workshop at the shelter. That one, our next one is tomorrow. We don't do them during the summer, number one, because kitten season is just crazy, and also our ed room isn't available. But we spend the day with shelters. Last month, we had 17 shelters from all over the country come. We talk about how we built the program. We show you our intake. We go over our neonatal assessments. We spend a lot of time with our shelter vet because high volume neonatal kitten protocol is very unique. We also talk with our fundraiser and development team, and they talk a lot about how they market it to the community and strategies that they use to let people know what we're doing and engage them. We also have a very compelling presentation from our CEO. Keep in mind, we do have a hybrid shelter. We have the county contract, but we get the majority of our funding from private donors. He has to answer for the fact that the majority of the kittens that come from our area are not from our area yet. We cash a check from the county. That has never been a problem. That doesn't mean it won't be. Those questions do come up. He talks about how he handles that. He also talks about the notoriety the program has gotten for the shelter and what the increase of numbers has done for the shelter. We also have critical care for kittens with Ellen Carosa, who's a cat LVT. She sometimes comes in and speaks, or we'll have one of our satellite campuses come and talk about how they integrated the program into their facility. So that is something that if that is good for you, it is free. We work with the hotel just 2 blocks from us to get a great rate. You're free to join that. Our next one won't be until the fall. We also do the travel apprentice program. Now that's something that I do all the time. I'm on the road. But that's basically going to a shelter and talking to them about what we're doing, finding out what their problems are, letting them know what we did to address similar things. Generally, we do presentations in the morning with staff and administrators, talk about the program, how we develop it, a lot of foster recruitment and retention. Then in the afternoon, we'll do a presentation for animal care staff and for fosters, and they come in. We have a very, very, very popular training called Taking the Fear Out of Bottle Feeding and Basic Kitten Care. That is something that Maddie's Fund has also produced, so you can have access to that. We'll talk about that in a second. But it basically brings the shelters together. So we did do our 2023 impact report. It's available on our Facebook page, but 2023 was a big year for us. As Kelly said, we were invited by UC Davis to sit with them on a panel to update their neonatal kitten guidelines, which at the time had not been updated in over a decade. I was presenting with UC Davis, and really one of the things we work to let people know is you do not feed bottle babies every 2 hours, and that is something that is costing shelters and rescues fosters every day because it's very labor intensive and people don't think they can do it. So we go over that and the science behind it. We work with some major corporations that we reached out to. Their stuff that they are products that we use that we're trying to get to help pay for these programs as we go out. As Kitten College is being built, my goal and our goal at the shelter is to make it so that the corporations whose future clients we're saving really make an investment in what we're doing. Some trainings can cost up to $20,000 to get a training into a shelter, and that for me is unconscionable because this is such critical information to life saving, and any place doesn't have $20,000, it's going to be a shelter or rescue. So we're now functioning at this national level, and we talk a lot about that in our impact report. We also, these are the guide to raising unweaned and neonatal kittens. You can find that at UC Davis's Correct shelter medicine program. That is available online. It's also available on University of Wisconsin. You can download that and see the updated versions. There are some major differences. We go over that in the Taking the Fear Out of Bottle Feeding. We are working with UC Davis still, Julie Levy. We will be doing a presentation here on Maddie's Fund, hopefully very soon, to go over the main questions. I can go out and do these presentations and talk about, why it's, why if you overfeed a kitten, they get diarrhea, and that's more critical. But if you need to hear it from a vet. So we're working to get all of those resources available to folks. Moving forward, we are really just building this little national network as we go. We have a Kitten College community Facebook page. I would ask if you're interested, please join that Facebook page. It is just for shelter and rescue staff, shelter vets, etc. It's not for fosters or, it's just a safe place to ask these types of questions. We're still working with Maddie's Fund and Maddie's University to get the information out to people and make sure the information is blessed by the research organizations that produce it. We really want to educate and empower people to save these kittens and take some of the stress out of it and really share the burden with them. So we did produce last fall this Taking the Fear Out of Bottle Feed and Basic Kitten Care on Maddie's University. This was something that we approached them about doing because I had previously been a foster coordinator, and during kitten season is when you get the most people that say, I would absolutely love to bottle feed, and I would love to foster for you, but you don't have time to do the training. So it's designed sort of to help that. This course is broken out into section. It is tested. You can ask questions at any time during the training. It'll email directly to me. If I don't know the answer, I can get it from any of the shelter vets that we work with. We also have talked about doing office hours, but at this point, we are able to answer the questions so easily that I think we'll probably just stick to what we're doing. So if you have a foster that wants to foster, you can send them the link to this course. They will get a diploma at the end that says that they had passed it, their questions had been answered, and they're ready for animals. Hopefully that helps you. We also did it by section because we already have updated it a little bit. And as things come, we want to make sure that all of the information is out there. So the other thing, addressing the financial need for this, because if you're going from 92 kittens to 1,500, you're investing a lot more money. Granted, you're getting some back from their adoptions, but we like to share little things that you can do. At our shelter, we have fosters that are labor and delivery nurses. If you go to a hospital with labor and delivery nurses, they put erythromycin on the eyes of the cats every day when they're born and throw the rest of the bottle away. I don't think we've bought erythromycin in forever. We know how often we go through it, but you can do that. Reach out to them. You can also do that with lactated ringers. If it's something that your shelter allows and the hospital allows, it's a great way to offset some of those costs. We're working with Revival Health. Foster care is their version of Breeder's Edge. So foster care is the same high quality product. It is offered to shelters and rescues at a lower cost. They also have amazing microchips and vaccines, and they're partnering with us. So we're working with them to try and get more discounts for folks that are doing kittens. So we'll let you know about that. They can also sponsor us going to a shelter or rescue if they don't have the funds to do it. Another one is Royal Canin. They were our first major sponsor because I don't know of anything else that works like mother and baby cat, and it is crazy expensive. So for it to be cost prohibitive yet so important, I really wanted to work with them. They were very receptive. They do have something called their Crown Partner Program. You can sign up for that there. Basically, you just have to show your 501c3 paperwork. They'll set you up. You get 25% discount. You get professional size bags. You get additional times off. They'll have specials that run a week and we'll send those out in our newsletters. But one thing that we do is we allow our fosters to order off of that, so you can set them up as buyers. So your fosters who are supporting your organization can also get the shelter pricing, tax-free, and free shipping. So it's just something to consider. For us, baby cat is just, I've never found anything like it. So please consider staying connected. I mentioned Kitten College Community earlier. That's a Facebook group. But the newsletter is open to all. If your fosters want to join, if you want to join, we will send out the information that we get as we're going around the country and learning tips, everything. So please consider doing that. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer. I will leave this newsletter up so you can do the QR code if you want to sign up for it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Marnie. That was excellent. And the program is it blows my mind every time I hear about it. It really, there's so many parts of it that are just really outside the box kind of thinking. So
thank you.
So we have some questions. The first one is, the first one was, do you have a link to the video you showed? And I can send it out to the group.
You know what? It's such a large file that what we do is I usually put it on a thumb drive when I go, or if people come to us and deliver it on a thumb drive. There may be a way to do it, and if anybody knows how, you would be able to. So I would be more than happy to share it once I learn
Awesome.
how.
Thank you. You had a couple of questions about it. And then another question was, where was the video promoted, on social media or elsewhere?
What video? The
one you showed.
Oh, it wasn't really promoted anywhere. It's something that what I do is, when I talk to people about what we do, I think it sets the tone for the conversations. And especially also people that don't really know what we do. It's a great intro for them on neonatal kittens and why we save them.
Awesome. Another question. I've been lobbying for a system of moving kittens through different foster homes, 0 to 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, but I've gotten pushback from our veterinary team. Have you experienced anything like that? And are there any studies that show that kittens adapt better by going through different foster homes?
You know, I don't know if they've done studies on that because I don't know that anybody has done it besides us. I think our numbers speak for themselves. What I will say is that hearing it from other folks is often much more compelling. And so that may be something where if we came to you and did a presentation and talked about our wins and our successes, it may move the gauge a little. I will say that when we go places, we talk a lot about what we do, but we never address protocols that other people do. Obviously, we all have different demographics, and we're not going to go into an organization and know what's right for your organization. We're just going to tell you what we do, and I would be happy to share everything that we've done and how we've done it, and the steps we took. But you know, if you sent the right people to ours, but usually if it's a lot of people and they need a lot of people to learn about it, us going there is a little bit more engaging.
Awesome. How do you determine the levels for the fosters, and like how do they move up or not?
Oh, that's an
Like, how does that
excellent
work?
question. Usually what we do, that's a lot of it is common sense for how you interact with the person. And because somebody can come in and say, I want a bottle feed, and they don't never even seen a neonatal kitten before. In that instance, if we feel like they would be a good foster, we would send home a nursing or pregnant mom, and we would want them to monitor the age, like the development of these kittens, and pay attention because they will need to then do that when they get it. Um, so that's something we would do. If we also have ones that are functioning at one level and want to do another, we'll have one of our professors mentor them and walk them through it. And then as they get kittens, be there to answer their questions. We have a very active group for our kitten college fosters. It's just for the fosters that do bottle babies. And it's been a great tool for us because people can ask questions on it. And we have so many amazing, capable fosters that know, you know, just as much as any staff member, in some cases even more, about these kittens and how to handle them and what our protocols are. So we just are able to monitor that and check if there are any, you know, and adjust if there are things that aren't right about it. But we rarely see that happen. So that's a great way, lining them up, and usually starting them the first time at a class younger than they really want, just to make sure.
That makes sense. I really like the I feel like another like really exciting effect of moving them between fosters is that the fosters really do get to know each other.
Mhm.
Because like there's nothing more intimate than sending like your babies to somebody else.
Well, and it has been, that is one of the things that has been the biggest. I mean, obviously learning that what this does to socialization and how it helps their immune system, that was a surprise to me. But the community itself is so strong. I mean, they do stuff on their own all the time. We support them all the time. They're an independent group within the shelter. So they're not dog fosters, they're not cat fosters, they are just kitten college fosters. So it's so heartwarming. They all support each other.
Thank you so much, Marnie. This was wonderful. And thanks to all of you who are watching today's webinar. Any questions we didn't, any questions that come up, we can post them in Maddie's Pet Forum, and Marnie will be there for a couple of days to help us continue this discussion.